Hello guys, and welcome back to my channel, and welcome to December 1st. We are jumping into the holiday season. Officially it is December, and I wanted to tell you what my plans are for filming videos the rest of, well, the year actually, all of December. So I have some like theme videos, some things that are based off of letters, spelling out a word, and I also have a week of coming up. Let's jump right into today's eye look, which is using the Naughty palette from BH Cosmetics. I did an entire week of videos with this palette last year. I can card that above for you if you want to see the week of series. There are lots of videos in there, and without further ado, let's get going with today's video. As usual, I am priming my eyes. This is the Glamlight Icing Primer in the shade Buttercream. I have this as well as everything else that I'm using, or, possibly even mentioning, down below in the description box. I do tend to use things that are a little bit older, so if they're not current, then I'll just make a note that it's discontinued or out of stock, but most of what I buy is secondhand, so remember that you can check the secondhand apps, such as Poshmark and Mercari, if you really want something that's not sold on the official site anymore, but is still very much available. Alright, I'm diving first into this shade called Panettone, and I want to use this to fill my crease. If you were on my channel last year, you probably saw that there were lots of fun Christmas or holiday themed videos. I had so much fun filming December's videos last year. Honestly, I have fun filming all of my videos. I really do. I really enjoy this hobby. It's very stress relieving for me. It's fun. I get to engage with you guys and make new friends. It's a good time. But last year, of course, the holiday season just invites, it's a whole different level, like a different feeling, a different atmosphere, and I really enjoyed it. So last year, I did all kinds of ranking videos, year-end sorts of videos, collection tours. I don't think I did a declutter, but I did a lot of Christmas or holiday themed sorts of videos. Now, I would like to do those again this year, at least a couple of them, because it's good fun. But I also tend to do a week of per month, like 1 week dedicated to a specific palette, and I try to do one of those per month. So I do have a week of Christmas Eve, which is actually coming next week, I think. I've got it all filmed. It's just a matter of where I want to put it in December, and based off of my other big project for December, I think it makes sense to start with the week of Christmas Eve and then end with the other project. I'm not sure. That might not be the case. You might find the week of Christmas Eve actually towards the end of the month around Christmas Eve. Maybe I'll do that instead. Haven't fully decided, but in December there is a week of Christmas Eve. I have 4 beautiful looks for you guys. 1 or 2 you might expect from the palette, and 1 or 2 you might be quite surprised. I want to deepen this now with the black in the palette. It's called Coal. I've got a Blend Bunny B4 brush, so I'm dipping Coal, and I really like contrast in my look. So if I can get a really light inner corner and then a deep outer corner, that is my preference. I will fill in this outer triangle or so with the Coal shade. So let me tell you about my other larger project for the month of December. I have decided, and I mentioned this in a previous video, you guys kind of voted on it, and this was a well-received idea. I've selected the word holidays, and what I'm going to do is every video I upload is going to be using shades which start with the next letter in the word holidays. So my first video will only be using shadows that start with the letter H. My second video will only be using shadows that start with the letter O. So it's kind of like a palette bingo-ish in terms of me having a much more random assortment of shadows. But it's less bingo-esque in that I get to choose which pans, as long as they start with the right letter, which shadows I do get to use. So it's random and then it's not random at the same time. I want to tell you guys how I have selected the palettes that I will be using. I'm going to go through the process for you, and I will just card this video when I'm doing those letters so that if you care, you can come back and see how I actually selected the palettes that I'll be using. So the first thing that I did, let me show you my list. The first thing I did was I spelled out the word holidays, and then I wrote down every single palette in my collection. I excluded my MAC Quad because I didn't remember the names of the shadows, and honestly I didn't have the time to go back and look. And I excluded Plain Jane from Adept because all of these shadows are named A, C something. Aside from that, these are all the palettes that are currently in my collection, and what I did was I went through every single one of them, and I made a check mark if one of the pans started with any of the letters in the word holidays. So for example, the Earthy palette from Beauty Bay had an H shadow, it had an L, an I, an A, and an S. You can see lots of palettes have the letter S. Now I will say, while I continue this eye look, I will say that there were several palettes that might have several shadows that start with an S. Perfect example, the Whistler Snow Lodge palette from Nomad. I think like 2/3 of the shadows in that palette start with an S. So all I did was I put one check mark. Yes, there's at least one shadow in here that begins with an S. And I did that for my entire collection. On a flat brush, I've picked up the shade Cheers, and I'm going to spray it because this is going to perform beautifully. I just want to spray it to help control fallout, keep it in one spot, you know, not go too far, too far anywhere. And so anyway, the next thing I did with my little holidays theme was I numbered all those palettes all the way down. Then I assessed and I said, okay, the letter Y is the least represented in my entire collection. I only had 4 palettes that had shadows that began with the letter Y. So I assigned those 4 palettes to go together. When I do my Y day from the holidays theme, I have to use those 4 palettes. And honestly, I might only have those 4 shadows. There weren't many. After the Y shade was done with only 4 palettes, I decided I would like to have at least 6 options. Again, some palettes have many shadows that begin with that correct letter, so it's not to say that I only have 6 shadows. I only have 6 palettes to work from. I didn't want to go through each of those palettes and try to curate color stories and figure out a look. No, that would have been way too time intensive and a little bit insane, honestly. So I decided I'll just choose 6 palettes per letter, and I have to work with whatever shades within those palettes do begin with that letter. So pretty randomly, honestly, with very little consideration of what palettes they actually were, I just went down the list and said, okay, you know, palette number 4 has an L, that'll be the one that I use for the L shade. So there was very little thought put into the actual color stories of the palettes and how they might work with the rest that were selected for that letter. I chose 6 palettes per letter, and by the time I was done, I was pretty delighted to realize that almost every palette in my collection was going to be used one time for this little challenge. I think there were 3 or 4 that were not part of the list. I'm picking up the shade Spicy, which is a gold shimmer. Not too much of it, just loading up one side of my brush and I'll spray it. I want to bring in, where's my spray? It rolled. I want to bring in a little bit of gold to tie into my earrings, and there are actually little flecks of gold on my shirt, but not much. So here's Spicy, and I'll put that here. I did not check off palettes number 26. Oh, the Udensai Merry Christmas. I decided not to do that palette because I just did a week of Merry Christmas. Also, Orchid You Not from ColourPop. Nouveau. Actually, Nouveau was not selected. I really like Nouveau, but it's not. I didn't select it. And Tropicolor from Sydney Grace. That's actually my next palette pull-in. I didn't not select it intentionally, but now that I realize that that one wasn't chosen, it's perfectly fine because I'm going to be doing Tropicolor as a palette pull-in, maybe as a week of at some point as well. And also the Verona Love and Death from Nomad. Aside from that and the 2 that I had originally excluded, that's everything in my collection as of the time that I'm doing this. So I'm excited. I'm actually really excited about this holidays theme. I hope that made sense to you guys. I tried to take a video of it and put it all together, and I would just show that video with each of those holiday themes, but no, it was getting to be a bit cumbersome and requiring time that I just didn't have to put into it. So I thought it made more sense to go over the whole process in today's video, giving you guys a preview of what I plan on doing for the month of December. Alright, all of that is looking beautiful. I want to tie, like I said, into the gold just a little bit. I think I'll pick up the shade Misbehave on rather a smaller blending brush, and I'm going to put this on my whole lower lash line. Aside from those 2 specific plans, the week of Christmas Eve and the holidays theme, and I'm not sure what I'm going to call that yet, but aside from those 2 specific plans, I don't have anything firm set for the month of December. It's pretty likely that I'm going to be doing some pre-filming for January because, as you know, or probably know, my father recently passed away, so we will be traveling at the end of the year and possibly staying to visit my mom for a few weeks in January. So there might be a space where I don't have any videos uploaded, or I might try to do a bunch of pre-filming in December before we go. I'm not sure what that's going to look like. I'm not going to be committing to a, 12 days of Christmas or Vlogmas or anything like that. I'm not committing to anything that's daily uploads in December. It sounds fun. Maybe I could do it in a different season of life, but not where I am right now. At least I can't commit to it. If that happens, then go me. But honestly, if that happens, it might indicate me neglecting other things in my life, which is not great. Alright, so I laid that Misbehave shade on the whole lower lash line, except up until about here, and now I'm taking that same brush, cleaned off, going into Meringue, and I'm going to use this as an inner corner highlight. Now on me, this shade is quite remarkable. This shade on me is kind of an eraser. It's basically my skin tone when it's blended out, and so I can use it if I've put down too much of a color. I can use it to almost erase that color. It's pigmented enough, and this is remarkable for a pastel, it's pigmented enough to cover darker colors. On my inner corner here, it's almost imperceptible as far as it being a color. You can just see that it's brightened the area a lot, and I think that's what I want. I'm starting to move away from shimmer inner corners. They tend to really emphasize, I won't say texture. I know that they emphasize texture, but my own personal experience is they actually catch the light in a weird way, because I have a little fold, you know, right here. And I think most of us with hooded eyes do. You know, there's a little fold right here. And if I put shimmer there, then some of the shimmer is on top of the fold, and some of the shimmer ends up underneath the fold, and it actually ends up casting an odd shadow the way the light hits the different reflects or sparkles of the shade. So a shimmer actually can make my inner corner look rather odd. And I'm also just going to drag this meringue into that yellow on the lower lash line, and that's about it. Again, it doesn't look like a color per se, it just looks like the inner corner of my natural skin tone is clean. I do really like to have a pop of a bright shimmer on the very innermost part of the lower lash line. It's not necessarily the inner corner that hits the fold, it's just the lower lash line. So with this quite small blending brush, I'm grabbing Snow Day, which is a lovely white shimmer. I will spray it because I want it to go only where I put it. And I will lay that on my lower lash line at the inner space. So it brightens up that area quite beautifully, but it's not a proper or technical inner corner highlight. I know that Annette from Annette's Makeup Corner does this sort of thing. She takes a really vibrant liner and she does the same thing. So it brightens that lower lash line and it brightens the inner corner, but it doesn't add weird texture. Quite frankly, using that as an inner corner highlight probably would have been fine, but I like the way it is right now. So I'm going to choose something for my waterline. I'll go off camera, I'll do the other side. You know the drill. We'll be right back. So there you are, my friends. Those are my plans for filming for the rest of the year. I would love to hear your comments and thoughts below. By the time you guys see this video, I think I'll probably have a few slots left in the month. It depends on how well pre-filming goes. You know that I like to pre-film because I have 3 children, and sometimes I have plenty of time to film and sometimes I don't. So I like to try to keep my schedule relatively regular, and pre-filming is something that allows me to do that. Let me tell you what I did to finish off today's eye look. I put white in my waterline and then I just did some black mascara. That's it for the eyes. On my lips, I'm wearing this Italia Deluxe color 1052 in natural beige as a lip liner, and I've topped it with the This Is Milky Gloss from NYX in the Mango Lassie color. And then on my face, I just have, I brought out of retirement my Tulum palette from BH Cosmetics because I really wanted a warm blush, but I don't have any. All my blushes are cool. I do have a bronzer, and I thought, why don't I just use technical bronzer as a blush? Who cares? It's whatever. It's fine. And then on my face, I have the ABH Aurora Glow Kit. So that's everything. Again, it's all linked down below in the description box. I appreciate you so much for being here today. I hope you have enjoyed the video. I hope you have enjoyed the eye look. Again, do let me know in the comments what you think. I do hope that you'll consider liking and subscribing before you go if you like this kind of content and you want to see lots of it and you want to see lots more fun videos throughout the month of December. That is on the schedule. So I look forward to seeing you guys in my next video. Thank you for being here. Hope you have a great day. Bye!